Good Sunday morning and welcome to Props and Locks, courtesy of Bet Rivers Sportsbook. I'm Caitlin Sharkey. It's been an interesting start to Week 12 in the NFL, to say the least, but we are here to break down the best bets and props of the week. Joining me this morning and every Sunday morning, VSiN expert Danny Burke. Danny, our first game today is another edition of the NFL's oldest rivalry, Packers and Bears, meeting at Lambeau Field. Bears catching 9. Not really a surprise here. Mitchell Trubisky, the starter for the Bears, coming off their bye week, over under at 44. Danny, I like Green Bay in this matchup, but I don't know about that point spread.
Yeah, Caitlin, it's a little bit too high. And look, it's tough because you get Mitchell Trubisky back, and yes, as Bears fans, we're all rooting for him naturally, but the key for us here is to try to make money off of these games. And the best angle, in my opinion, is to tease down this number, because you get a home favorite of just over 7, which historically is a successful mark in the NFL for betting teasers. So you tease down the Packers from that 9-point favorite spot. You tease them down 6.5. That comes down through the 7 and the 3, which are the two key numbers when betting football. That puts you at -2.5. So you just need Green Bay to win by 3, which, Caitlin, let's be honest, they're more than capable of doing so. As much as we want Trubisky to do well, is that very likely? I mean, this Green Bay defense has been susceptible throughout most of the season. You've seen them keep teams like the Jaguars in competition, but that game had really bad weather conditions, and it's not going to necessarily be the exact same for this game. But the Bears' defense, as we know, is going to be the thing that keeps them in there. But in terms of rankings offensively, a metric we like to dive into is DVOA, and the Packers rank 2nd in offense in that category. And the Bears are all the way down at the bottom. They only average 19 points per game. However, the Packers' defense does allow over 35 points per game. So if you think the Bears are capable of hanging in there because of that Packers' lackluster defense, then go ahead and take the points with the Bears. But personally, I think teasing down the Packers is the move in this spot.
Now, Aaron Rodgers has won 16 of the last 18 games he started and finished against the Bears. Chicago last beat Green Bay in 2018. Looking at that over-under, is this going to be a low-scoring affair, Danny?
You got to imagine it is, and not only because of how good the Bears defense is, but typically when you see these primetime games, what does the public love to do? Bet the overs, because no one wants to root against a slow-scoring or root against a high-scoring game. They think it's going to be a lot of points scored, the two teams only going on right then. People want to see points, but let's be honest, the Bears are probably going to slow down Aaron Rodgers and the Packers at some point, but then inevitably they're going to overcome that bend, don't break mentality the defense has. They'll get their points there. But can Mitchell Trubisky get enough for the Bears? And I really just don't think so, despite how much the Packers defense has been struggling. So I would look toward this game being under. It's not something I would have enough confidence to bet because it is pretty low, but I certainly would not be looking for the total to go over in this spot.
All right, moving on to the Panthers and Vikings. Minnesota lane 3, looking at 50 here for an over-under. Carolina is 4-0 as a road underdog against the spread in its last 4 games. I like Bridgewater and the Panthers with the points, Danny.
Ooh, okay, Caitlin, we're butting heads here again because I like Minnesota in here. And look, we always joke about Minnesota. They do me wrong pretty much every other week. But Thielen being out moved that line from 3.5 to 3, and I was actually kind of waiting to see if it would get down to that point despite Thielen playing or not playing, and it stinks that he's not going for Minnesota, but I think this could be a good buy low spot on Minnesota. Yeah, it was a bad loss last week against the Cowboys, who were coming off a bye week, but Dalvin Cook is going to have a field day per usual and then some against this Panthers defense that has really had trouble stopping the run all throughout this year. So now that it's at the key number of 3, I see it more as a buy low opportunity for Minnesota. So I would probably look toward laying the 3 with the Vikings, hoping Kirk Cousins and company can finally get something going on a consistent basis. In terms of the total, though, we talked about the under for the last one. I think this could be an over spot here. This is really historically kind of with the Vikings in this spot. The latest trends have this one going over. And look, this isn't the same Vikings defense we're accustomed to. Look what Dallas was able to do last week. So the Panthers will certainly get their points, and so will the Vikings. Look for this one to go over the total as well. But if I have to make a bet in this one, I'm laying the 3 with Minnesota.
All right, I respect your loyalty to Minnesota. Next up, a battle of 2 7-3 teams for the top spot in the AFC South. The Titans and Colts. Indianapolis, the 3-point favorite, over under at 51.5. Colts beat the Titans 34-17 in Week 10, Danny. Phillip Rivers had himself a game that night, and I hate to say it, but I like them again this time around.
I'm with you here, Caitlin, and typically I'd be on the other side because when you get a divisional matchup, you typically lean toward those teams splitting it, especially when they're head-to-head, pretty even keel. But the thing that's the big difference between these squads is the defense, and Tennessee has a really bad defense this season. Colts are the exact opposite. Now, they are missing Buckner on the defensive front, so that's going to be kind of tough, and they're missing Taylor offensively. And you look at this Tennessee offense, which has just been really, really solid all year. The Colts have been kind of inferior, but they have been picking it up lately. Rivers is starting to mesh kind of better with that coaching staff and the offensive regime. So I like the Colts here as well. I would lay the 3 and also look for the total to go over once again in this matchup.
All right, should be a good one. Well, there's still more to come on this Week 12 edition of Props and Locks. And a reminder, you can always place your bets at betrivers.com or using the BetRivers mobile app. We're back after this.
Props and Locks on Fox 32, presented by BetRivers Sportsbook.
Place your legal sports bet at BetRivers.com, your new home for football betting. The most football betting options on the sports you love. We offer live in-game betting on every pro football game in the U.S. We have tons of bets available during games, from point spreads, over-unders, money lines, prop bets, and many more. BetRivers is a trusted partner of Rivers Casino. Bet with Chicago's hometown sportsbook. Sign up now and we'll match your first deposit up to $250. More bets, more action, more fun. Place your sports bets at BetRivers.com.
You've been on the edge of your seat.
Monsters of the Midway are in absolute force.
You've held your breath to the final seconds.
23 puts it up. He sends it deep to left.
You've been there for the thrill of victory.
And it's in. Chicago recovers. The drought is over. Chicago's won it all.
And we'll be with you for that next magic moment. You can bet on it. Bet Rivers, Chicago's hometown sportsbook.
Welcome back to Props and Locks. I'm Caitlin Sharkey, joined by VSiN expert Danny Burke. Danny, we continue with the highly anticipated matchup. Tom Brady and the 7-4 Buccaneers taking on Patrick Mahomes and the 9-1 Chiefs. Tampa Bay catching 3.5. They have a top-ranked run defense, but I still like KC minus 3.5.
Yeah, this one's tough, Caitlin, and I've been going back and forth on this game all week, and as of late, I've been leaning a little bit more toward Tampa Bay catching 3 in the hook because you're over that key number of 3, and we alluded to it earlier with buy low spots, and this is a big-time one with Tampa Bay. Let's not forget they have a really great defense, and offensively, you still have Tom Brady, who has looked like he's been struggling, and I mean, he has for sure, but if he's going to come back and have a good bounce-back performance, it probably will be against his Kansas City defense. So I lean a little bit toward Tampa Bay catching the 3.5 because of that buy low spot, but it's so bet against Patrick Mahomes. So for that, I'm actually looking at a prop in this game, and I'm looking at Ronald Jones over 57.5 rushing yards. Kansas City's run defense has been really bad this season. They rank 30th in DVOA run defense. They allow about 135 rushing yards per game, 4.6 yards per carry, and Jones is averaging 68 rushing yards per game himself. And look, the Bucs are going to want to keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands, so they're going to kind of want to dwindle that clock down, take their time. I like Ronald Jones over 57.5 rushing yards.
Okay, next up, Arizona Cardinals at the New England Patriots. Cardinals laying 1.5, over under at 49. Both teams coming off losses. New England is winless against NFC teams this season. What's your lean here, Danny?
Caitlin, if anybody's betting this game with confidence, God bless you, because I have no idea with this one, because these are just two of the most, maybe not the most inconsistent teams. The Patriots are absolutely the most inconsistent team, but the Cardinals are so frustrated because they have all this talent. They're so fun to watch, but they just completely shoot themselves in the foot every single time, like they did against the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football with the intentional grounding. That led to the safety. That's a game they probably should have won. And this Patriots team, you know, they get the big upset against the Ravens, and then they lose to the Texans, so I don't know what to expect out of the Patriots here. So I have a little bit more confidence with the Cardinals. A lot of the sharp money has been going on the under in this game and the Patriots. So overall, I'd recommend staying away or in-game betting it, but I do have a slight lean toward Arizona and my boy Kyler Murray.
All right, it's the Raiders and Falcons meeting for our next game. Julio Jones not expected to play for Atlanta. Raiders laying 3, over under 53.5. Danny, I see Las Vegas bouncing back from their loss to the Chiefs and cruising here against the Falcons.
Yeah, this game opened as a pick'em, and then all the money went toward Las Vegas right away, and it's been steady at that key number of 3 in favor of the Raiders all throughout this week. Julio Jones being out, obviously a big factor. Todd Gurley as well. both of these offenses are really dominant, but you give a bigger edge toward Las Vegas, who's been way more consistent on that side of the ball. They both struggle on defense. I have the edge with Las Vegas as well, Caitlin.
All right, and finally in the NFC West, the LA Rams laying 6.5 against the San Francisco 49ers. Niners have lost 3 straight, while the Rams have won 3 of their last 4. But with that 6.5 number you see, I'm guessing this is a teaser opportunity, Danny.
You nailed it, Caitlin. Not feeling too confident laying the 6.5 with the Rams because the 49ers are getting some key players back. It's a great head coaching battle between Shanahan and McVay. Teasing down the Rams here, 6.5. Pair that with the Packers. That's a great spot here.
All right, and before we go, Danny, let's recap some of your best bets and props that you're looking at for this Week 12.
So just like we said, 6.5-point teaser, bring down the Packers from a 9-point favorite down to -2.5. It's under that key number of 3, and you're getting that against the Bears. The Packers should be able to win by at least 3 against Mitch Trubisky and company. You tease down the Rams against the 49ers. All you need them to do is just win the game outright. Then Ronald Jones over 57.5 rushing yards. Look for the Buccaneers to try to implement the ground game, keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. Those are my 2 best bets for NFL Week 12.
And before I let you go, Danny, how did the Broncos quarterback situation affect things betting-wise this week?
Caitlin, I mean, we saw this line at about 6 throughout most of the week, and in some shops it's moved up to now the Saints being about a 13-point favorite, 14 all the way up to 15. So if you have that ticket, of course, before, you're in good luck because you got the best of the number naturally. But be careful. Don't just hop on the Saints automatically. It's still kind of a tricky spot. Yes, the Saints are going to win this game, let's be honest, but high spreads, backdoor cover is wide open, so maybe just stick away for that one and enjoy the fun.
And what advice would you give people looking with all these moving parts that we're seeing now in the NFL when it comes to all these cancellations and personnel changes? What advice do you give for bettors?
Well, really, you just got to have that notion in your head when you make these bets, saying, okay, there's a good chance that this bet could get changed and altered because of these COVID reasons, and that's been really the main message throughout this whole course of the season. Now, when you go with a certain team, you kind of got to understand who their backups are, how much you trust them, but the main thing here is not only the importance of where you're getting that number at, but the head coaching battle, okay? We talked about 2 great coaches in Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, 2 great coaches who can really deal with adversity despite if they're going to be missing some of these players. And you look at a coach like Mike McCarthy, who's been struggling, Matt Patricia, those kind of guys. Patricia's gone at this point, but those are the coaches you really don't want to trust no matter what. So it's all about that head coaching battle when you got to deal with those tough spots.
Important information to know. Well, thank you, Danny, and thank you for joining us on Props and Locks, brought to you by BetRivers Sportsbook. Join us every Sunday at 10 a.m. and make sure you place those bets at BetRivers.com. Fox